Welcome everyone into another episode of Beers with Mears presented by Picks Parlays. On tap today, we have Nino Bonaccorsi. He is a national champion wrestler from the University of Pittsburgh at 197 pounds. He is truly living his hometown hero dream right now. There's billboards of him all through the city right now after winning his national title. There are ice cream places making ice cream flavors for him, and there's even food places making sandwiches. This has been so exciting to see all of this evolve for him as he conquered the college wrestling scene. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to know Nino Bonaccorsi. He's genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I hope that all of you will now be immersed into the world of wrestling like I am after getting to hear a conversation with him as my Thirsty Thursday guest. Now for Win or Lose We Boost today, we took a little bit of an L, I'll admit. I had a plus 440 parlay in the NIT tournament, and it was between UAB and Utah Valley. Now UAB did win by the win margin 1-10, as I expected they would, and I'm glad they did. However, I did not think this game was going to hit the over 151.5. So I took the under only because UAB had not had a game go over this in the postseason yet, and neither did Utah Valley. So it surprised me a little bit, but nonetheless, I can take an L just as good as I can take a W. So I will drink to that for sure. In my I'll drink to that segment, I am so excited to announce that Julie Ertz is back. The 26-player roster for the U.S. women's national team, their upcoming training camp in April is out, and Julie Ertz is back. The midfielder, who she is, last played with the national team during the 2021 Olympics, hasn't appeared in the NWSL since May of 2021, but she sprained her right MCL when she was playing with Chicago. And then she had her first child. So her being back is a huge deal. She's still unattached and not with the club, but she's a beast on the field, and I think she does so much for this team when she's there. So I'm very excited that Julie Ertz is going to be back. So pay attention to all of that U.S. women's national team soccer news, especially as the World Cup inches closer and closer to who's going to make that roster. Now for my beer review today, I want to give a shout out to my best friend, Maddie. She ended up getting me some new beer to try for my birthday, and she wanted me to try it on Beers with Mears. So check out, first and foremost, look at this can. This is like a Galaxy beer, right? It's called Bane of Existence. It's from a local Pittsburgh brewery called Hitchhiker. It even says, look, pick up a hitchhiker on the side there. Love to see it. But it's an IPA, and it's kind of light. It tastes really good. I'm a big fan of it, actually. She knows what kind of beer I like, but I would say it's a little hoppy, as most IPAs are, but it's pretty good. I would say on a taste scale, I'll give it around like a 7.3. It's something that you probably want to have one, maybe two of for the night, but it's not something you're always going to want to be going back for all the time. You might want to try something else after it because it's going to start feeling a little heavy, but I'll give it like a 7.3. Chuggability, probably around like a 3.4, a little heavier than something you'd want to chug. Like we always say, if we had to, we could chug it, but I would say it's not very high on the chuggability. But nonetheless, I am so appreciative of my best friend for thinking of me and the show that I'm doing, the different beers that I'm trying to try, and also give some business to the local breweries here in Pittsburgh as well. So Bane of Existence, check it out. Love the can. Extra points for that as well. So thank you, Maddie, for that birthday present. But without further ado, I've got an awesome Thirsty Thursday guest for you guys to listen to. So enjoy Mr. Nino Bonaccorsi on this episode of Beers with Mears, presented by Picks and Parlays. Nino Bonaccorsi, welcome to Beers with Mears. National champion Nino Bonaccorsi, I should give you a proper introduction. So how have you been feeling this week? All smiles, it looks like.
Yeah, love the sound of that. Been waiting a long time to hear people refer me to as the national champion. So every time I hear it, I can't help but smile, and I'm just feeling great. It's been such a blessed week. I've been really celebrating with my family and everyone, and yeah, I'm just on cloud nine right now.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, Nino, before we started the recording of the whole podcast, he's good. I'm feeling good. It feels great. Just living the dream here. But It's been a big week for you. So thanks for coming on Beers with Mears, presented by Picks and Parlays, because this is a big deal for me to get to highlight the wrestling community to a ton of people that watch and consume our Picks and Parlays content. A lot of football, a lot of basketball, a lot of sports that you can bet on. So I'm excited to highlight you to the world and let them know what a class act of a wrestler you are, but how cool this sport can be. So take us through right now, though, what this week has been like for you since becoming a national champion. I mean, there's been restaurants all about making food for you. There's been a ton of celebratory events happening from different people in the pit community. So how have you been taking in being a local celebrity lately?
It's been, I'll be honest, it's been a little hectic. I'm not used to kind of getting like thrown around at different interviews and stuff like that. But whenever I'm feeling like, oh geez, I just think back. I'm like, the alternative could be, not being a national champ. So it's just every time I get to do something, I'm glad I get to kind of share my story. And I'm glad it's really, I feel like my story specifically is really resonating with a lot of people. Just one, because I'm a Pittsburgh, home and grown. This is my backyard. And two, just from the way, everything kind of played out. So I'm glad people are kind of enjoying that kind of story. And, I've been reaping some benefits with some sandwiches and some ice cream and stuff. So they know I love to eat. So it's been really good. And, while it's hectic, it's also I'm very grateful.
Yeah, we'll get into that story because it's definitely great. Like an actual homegrown guy being a hometown hero is what I was referring to you as. But I have to get to something I'm a little bitter about. Millie's Ice Cream. They made a special Nino Bonaccorsi ice cream, and Luke told me we were going to go try it together. So for anyone out there who doesn't know, my boyfriend is one of Nino's coaches, and he said we were going to go try it together, but he got to try it yesterday, right? At Pitt, and I am just bitter about this, but it's fine. I'll let him try it. He's worked hard with you guys as well. So tell me what the story behind Millie's giving you your own ice cream flavor was.
Yeah, so it was so I've always like, just because Millie's has been around, I've always known about Millie's and how good it is, and they have like two locations here like on our campus. So it was kind of just pretty brief after I won. I think they got in contact with Drew Headley, one of my other coaches, and they're like, "Hey, that Millie's wants to do something special for you. They want to name an ice cream after you." So I was like, "Oh geez." So we were all kind of in communication. They're like, "Well, what do you want?" And I was like, "Well, it has to be something like Italian. So it has to be like, let's go on that trend." And then we were working on like, what do we want in it? We got a base. So we ended up coming to the conclusion of like, it's like a cannoli, base with like waffle cone and chocolate chips. And then they added like blue and yellow sprinkles for Pitt. So it actually turned out, and not to be biased, but it turned out like great. I'm not just saying that because my name's on it or anything, but it turned out like really good, and it was better than I ever thought it could be. So they really helped me out, and I'm glad how soon they did it right after my tournament. It was fresh in my head, and it was just yeah. And they produced it pretty quick too. Like you said, we had a little luncheon yesterday, and they had it there and gave me some pints. So if you're still bitter, I could send you a pint. So it's no problem.
Yeah, no, I'm just bitter that he got to try it before me because we're very competitive in this household. So if you don't know that about us, but I can't wait to try it. I'm gonna go buy a bunch. Do you reap any of the benefits from like the proceeds of this with NIL or anything like that?
Yeah, so I get I think I get like 25 cents per scoop and like $2 per pint. So it's so good that I think I can do some damage. So, if people really start liking it. So I do reap a little benefit from it, but it's more than just like the money. It's just the fact that such like a renowned company and Pittsburgh, ice cream is willing to do that for me. And that's kind of what I'm really happy about more so.
All right. Well, I'll go get a couple pints then for you so that you get some of those benefits. But it is cool. How do we what's the perfect way? Like, how are you eating the ice cream? Are you getting it in a cone? Are you getting it in a milkshake? Like, how do we have to eat your ice cream?
Yeah. So I've been buying it as the pint, and then like a lot of people like put it in the freezer and eat their ice cream like that. I like to let it sit out and let it melt a little bit, because then the sprinkles kind of like the blue and yellow kind of like mix into the ice cream and stuff. And it's almost like a milkshake. So that's kind of how I would do it personally. I'm a big foodie, so I mean, don't take my word for it, but that's kind of how I've been doing it.
All right, so we have to eat it Nino's way. What did they end up calling your ice cream flavor?
So we called it Hail to Nino's Cannoli Chocolate Chip Ice Cream.
Wow,
wait,
chocolate.
sorry. Let me wait.
Okay, what did we call it? What do we call it?
Yeah, Hail to Nino's Cannoli Championship.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that little pun. I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
No, I love it. And because you're a foodie, you're always trying different places in Pittsburgh. Given to Fly also gave you a sandwich This sandwich
Mhm.
looks fantastic. It's been blowing up on social media. I even saw Jordan Oliver talk about
Yeah.
it and wanted to see it. So that was pretty cool. You have to ship him
Yeah.
one of those, see if we can deliver it through the mail. But what
Yeah.
went into this sandwich process? And did you get to create that as well? Or did they sort of just say, because you're Italian, we're going to find something for you?
Yeah, very similar to like Millie's and everything. They kind of got in contact with Drew, and then I ended up more communication through Instagram with them, and it was more so they try to go with the Italian theme, so they said like something about like a chicken parm. But so my creativeness was just the name, so I came up with the Nino Italiano. Yet to try it. So me and my family and a couple friends, we're gonna go next Wednesday here, and we're all gonna go try it. He said, well, he'll hook us up with some sandwiches. So another one. I'm just so blessed to kind of have an opportunity to have a sandwich after me. It looks so good, and yeah, I can't wait to delve into
Okay.
that.
Well, you have to give someone, when you're eating the sandwich, you have to get someone to take a video of you eating it and send it to us so we can
For
put it
sure.
on here and then give us a review. Like we need everyone to review the sandwich because it's like a chicken
Yeah.
parm type of sandwich, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Chicken parm. Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely do that.
All right. Well, I will be letting all of Pittsburgh know to go try your sandwich and then go try some ice cream for dessert because I feel like that's the best way to celebrate you.
Yep. Heck yeah. Love it.
But let's go back to who you are and your roots here in Pittsburgh. Your dad has ties to Pitt Wrestling. Your brother had ties to Pitt Wrestling, and now you went to Pitt and are a national champion for the Pitt Wrestling program, the first since your coach Keith Gavin back in 2008. So, how cool is it to know that you were able to do this in the city that you were born and raised in?
It feels like complete like full circle. It feels so surreal that I really couldn't have asked for like a more perfect ending. For one, like you said, just such a city of champions, and especially this area in wrestling, like the Whitfield in southwestern PA is just the hotbed of wrestling. So it's kind of nice to add to that already like monumentous feat of wrestlers who accomplished so much here. So to kind of etch my name in that stone, it feels great. And to do it for my city, my backyard is just something that I couldn't have asked any better for. And then, on top of it too, it just feels great because me and Keith are so close. Obviously, he started his coaching career the same year I was entering Pitt. So, Pitt and in our program at that time, we are always like looking for that national champ, and for me to be Keith's first champ, while he was the last one, it just feels like couldn't ask for a better ending. And every time I think about it, it's like, wow, it's great.
So you really got to see from the beginning how Keith Gavin has put a ton of pieces together to revamp and revive this program here in Pittsburgh, because there were some down years as well before he came in. So what do you think makes Keith Gavin like the perfect guy to have rebuilt this program? And what were some of the things that you saw Keith Gavin do to make Pitt Wrestling what it is today?
I think a lot of it just comes down to his mindset. I feel like he's attribute is just his psychology of the sport and just the way he views it and views practice and competition. I think it's unmatched. And I think that's really something that, as you progress under him, you really start to appreciate, obviously, initially just his technique and just his wrestling skills as a coach. But for me, it was not only that, but just his mental side of everything. And, I felt like I was always after practice just itching to like pick his brain about stuff because when you would talk to him, you'd walk away, you're like, wow, that was like really profound way of thinking about wrestling. So I think just more and more people bought into his philosophy that this is just a craft, and more taking it like every day you're trying to get just 1% better, and it's something that if you really commit to, you will see progress, and more so being feeling accomplished that you're doing something, not so much feeling accomplished that you're achieving this certain accolade in wrestling, but just the accomplishment that you're committing your all to something. And I think that was resonating with a lot of our guys that, hey, while we're here, while it's our short time at Pitt, we're going to give everything we have. And regardless of our outcome, we can, we can be happy with the work we put in. So I think that's just one of the real culture changes that we've seen. And yeah, I'm glad I was able to witness it from the very beginning.
What are the interesting features about Keith Gavin's personality? Because he's a hard guy to figure out at first as well. I
Yeah.
mean, I love Keith Gavin and even done so much for me in my career. It meant a lot to me coming back to Pittsburgh, graduating, and he created an opportunity for me to mat side report at PWC events. And he didn't have to do that, but he genuinely cares about everyone in and around Pittsburgh and involved in his program. So I know from a personal standpoint that Keith Gavin is a stand-up guy. And if he says he's going to do something, he does it. So what are some of the interesting things, though, that everyone needs to know about Keith Gavin and who he is? Give us the VIP experience into his personality and how you see him as a person.
Yeah. Well, he comes across as so stoic, like you said. Like you look, he's like no emotion. He's just so hardcore. But in reality, Keith is like one of the funniest people I've ever met. He has like the driest, funniest humor. Like you'll just be talking and he'll just be stone cold, and then he'll just say something off the cusp of like, it's just something so dry and so funny that he just gets the whole team laughing. And I don't know. So I think it's just his humor. And I think his like you were saying, just his ability to make you feel like secure in what he's doing. Like you said, like when he says he's going to do something, he does it. And I think a lot of guys have seen just how much he's willing to go for us, like the extent. And I always look back to that time where he would talk about competing and just like wrestling, and he would preach, to us about wrestling. And then Flow Wrestling had an event where they had a 195-pound bracket. And then he actually entered in it, fully retired in a couple of years. So him to enter that tournament and actually practice what he's been preaching all this time, I think it just showed a lot of us that the extent this guy's willing to go and kind of, live out what he's actually saying. He's not just saying it from the coaching chair. He's willing to, do it in his own career, but, even post the fact that he's retired and able to kind of get back on the saddle and wrestle some of these young guys. That was something that really sticks out. And I had a lot of respect for him for doing that. And so, yeah, he's just a really, really great guy.
Did you help him? Were you his training partner to like help him prepare for that?
Yeah, I helped him out. Yeah. It was interesting because I was always, his whole coaching is just like, he would practice with me to help train me, but that was like the extent of his like wrestling practice, so for him to like kind of switch into training mode, it was honestly kind of like intimidating. I'm like, wow, this is the college prime, the world team making Keith Gavin that, so it was kind of cool to see him train, and he really went all out for it. And it took some lumps during that couple months of training, but hopefully I got him as prepared as I could. And so, yeah, that was really funny.
What's his training regimen like? Were you surprised by anything that he was doing at all?
Not super surprised. He was very like whenever he would wrestle, like he would pick and choose his days because, like I said, he is retired, so he would pick and choose when he would wrestle. But when he would, it was like all in. It was it was really hard drilling, hard wrestling. But then he was really active in his recovery days too. I felt like it was, you have to kind of change how you train. It's not like you were back when you're 20, you can't go every single day really hard. So it was kind of interesting to see how he approached that aspect and handled the workload. It was kind of inspiring for me, because I was one of those guys who never liked to take rest days. So for him to kind of, for me to see that, and then he would also tell me, it's important. Sometimes you do too much and that hurts you. So a lot of his training in a way was helping him, but it also kind of helped me subconsciously, like kind of look at some things and see, hey, what different approach to go about training and stuff.
So let's go down the bench here. Then Drew Headley, what kind of coach is he to you? I feel like every coach in a program plays a certain role or has a really interesting personality. And Drew, to me, during a match from a coaching perspective, Drew's a wonderful human, but from a coaching perspective, he's always the one to tell the ref, like, listen, I'm not going to say a lot, but when I do, I'm probably right. And I've got a reason for it. So take us through Drew Headley and his personality on the staff and what you think about him as one of your pick coaches.
Yeah, Drew's great. And it's something that like I love when Drew's in the corner because, like you said, he will get vocal. And I love when he's like chirping the ref or getting in someone's ear. So I always love hearing Drew and how intense he gets. Something interesting about Drew is that I've known Drew since my brother was in college, because he was also my brother's coach. So when I would go down for like high school PWC and just all these like club things, Drew was there. So I just felt like he was someone that I always like kind of was growing up seeing like Drew. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the coach at Pitt. Like I would always see Drew Headley. So for him to like be in my corner and be as like energetic and passionate for my matches, it just feels like, kind of sometimes I'm like, wow, this is like, I felt like so long ago I was like just a middle schooler, like what, seeing you out there. Now you're in my corner in the final. So love Drew. We have a real competitive. We play on a iMessage games on our phone. And we play mini golf. And I'm not joking. The score is probably like 200 in his favor. I cannot beat him, and I would put him up against anyone in the world at phone mini golf. He's so good somehow. So we like to have fun in the off time. So that's something that's kind of like an inside joke of ours is playing that mini golf. But I love Drew, and I was glad he could also be in the corner with me when I won.
Yeah, Drew and Luke play a lot of different golf games on their phones. That's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
the children still in them. But let's move
Yeah.
down the line to Luke. So yes, I'm Luke's girlfriend. We are in a house together. We spend a lot of time together, but he does not bring a lot of work home. And wrestling is one of those things that he's always a very reserved person, but those are a lot of the things that he's very passionate about. And so I don't get to see the full scoop of who he is in the room. I get to see the Luke when he comes home, but how has he coming to Pitt, and he went to Ohio State, so coming to Pitt, how has his presence been felt in that room? And he's kind of your age as well, so just his presence in general in there, how different was that for the Pitt wrestling room to have him come in and shake things up?
Yeah, I think really Pitt wrestling couldn't have made a better move hiring Luke. I think Luke was someone when he was in college I would like look up to, because Luke was so dominant and just achieving goals that I wanted to achieve. So for him to kind of, and like you said, he's my age. So for him to like finally get on staff and me be able like, this is like the Luke I always like looked up to, and now he's like my coach. It was just great. And he was great specifically for our lighter weights. He's just been so good with them. And he has such a great mind that, we obviously don't wrestle every day, but sometimes I'll pick his brain about certain techniques. And I remember that honestly, it was kind of like a month ago, I think he came up to me and was asking me about a specific move. And I kind of like in my head, I was kind of taken back. I'm like, you're asking me? Like, I gotta be asking you, like, So it was kind of like in a way, I was like, that was really cool. But like you said, me and Luke off, outside of the coaching realm, I love him. He's a great guy, and he's a really good coach. And I think he couldn't have been a better addition to our staff. I think he kind of just brings everyone together, and he's just specifically really good for our lightweights. And you could see the strides that our lightweights have made had when Luke was hired. So it's been great, and yeah, great guy. And I'm beating him in chess as well, which he probably won't come home and admit that to you. But when we play chess, yeah, it's something I wouldn't tell you either. Had he been getting beat by me all the time, but
okay, so
yeah.
I see you play the chess game then on your phone as well. He
Yeah,
sits
so
on the couch and plays that frequently. Okay, you and Drew, go ahead. You and Drew are golf.
Yeah, me and Luke are chess, so that's kind of how I do it.
So Luke comes home and will sit on the couch and play chess, and he's saying, it's good for his mind. This is why he's constantly doing that. I got him a really nice chessboard for his birthday about a month ago, and he's dying for people to come over and play with him because I have not learned chess yet, but he wants people to play. But he only has ever told me he's played with Wenzel. He has not told me he's played with you, and I wonder if that's because you've been beating him so badly.
Yeah, well, I will admit the last time he did beat me pretty good, but I mean, maybe he's hiding something. Yeah, he's admitting that I'm getting close, because I wasn't very good at chess, and I think my conception on the team is people think like, oh, Nino doesn't know how to play chess, or he's not very good. But I've been really trying, so when I can kind of like beat someone, I like announce it. I make it a big deal because no one believed in me.
So from wrestling, listen, I run a wrestling national championship. The next step, we're going to beat everybody in chess. So we're going to have to make a test bracket for Pitt wrestling, because I feel like so many of you have been getting so serious about this.
Oh yeah, I'd love it. I'd love to do that.
All right, I'm here for it. And Jake Wenzel was one of your teammates, now on staff. How odd of a transition is that to have somebody now that is in your corner for a lot of your matches, but you were also a part of that team with him in the locker room for so long? How much have you seen Wenzel grow and mature on the staff?
I've seen him make tremendous strides as like, a career outside of wrestling. And it's funny because me and Jake grew up 5 minutes from each other. He's South Park, I'm Bethel Park. And so when we were ever very little, we'd go to the same practices, and growing up, we even wrestled in high school my sophomore year. So it's kind of just funny. And
who won?
He beat me. He beat me. I couldn't get out of bottom on him.
Not many could.
Yeah, nothing changed. So yeah, it's just to see him grow. Then, like you said, eventually become my teammate. And I think something really special that we shared was when we made the finals. Obviously, me and Jake were very close before that, being a great teammate and everything. But that was kind of a bond. I think something we'll have forever, and something not many people can say. They made the finals with their teammate the year that we've kind of had like a little drought of All Americans. So I think that was something really special. And during the year, this year, obviously having him as a coach was a little odd at first, but it was hard to kind of differentiate him from coach to like my teammate. But he's so mature and he's so knowledgeable about wrestling that it was kind of like an easy transition for him. And he was really motivating me during the year because he every day, every interaction, we would call each other. I'd call him 8-1 and he'd call me 8-2 for the 81st, 82nd All Americans. And then as time went on, he was calling me 1-8, which is the next national champ, which actually turned out to be 1-7. I think it was 17th, but we messed up and we added one. So he was calling me 1-8 all year. And before every match, he'd be like, let's go get him 1-8. That's how 1-8 wrestles. So he was just really motivating for me, really supportive. And that's something that, I was really appreciative of him. So it was great having him as a coach.
That's a really cool dynamic. I remember you two making
Yeah.
the national finals together. It was so exciting. And then the next year, though, kind of hitting a little bit of a downfall. There are some hurdles that you had to clear in wrestling, from riding the highs of being in the national finals to not even getting on the podium the next year. And then the year after that, becoming a national
Yeah.
champion. How did you handle that mentally coming into this season, knowing the highs and lows that you were experiencing?
Yeah, it was really hard. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in a really like down place after that year. When I didn't make the podium, there's just a lot of doubt. I have such high goals for myself, as does every wrestler, but to kind of have them ripped from you, it was very sad. And I had to kind of find deep in myself some spiritual and some emotional like awakenings to really, you know, pull myself back up. Because unfortunately you don't have much time to sit on your losses. It's a whole year. But for me, I wanted to start as early as I could. And I remember the day after we got back from nationals the year before, I was sitting on my hill and I just remember looking up in the sky. And it's something so vivid. It's so weird how I just remember it so clearly. But I was just like, no one's ever going to make me feel like this again. And, I really kind of pulled myself up. I kept this glimmer of hope, this small hope. And when I was really sad that, hey, what if we did this? So I spent a lot of the summer and a lot of the preseason really working on my physical and wrestling techniques, but mainly my mental status of everything. I feel like that's really important and something sometimes people brush over is the mental side of everything. So I was really happy how I handled that process and matured mentally over the course of this season. And I do really think it paid dividends for me at the end and produced some of my best wrestling I've ever done.
Do you think that's possibly a reason why, when Tanner Sloan was the first one to score in your national finals match, that you were able to pick yourself back up and have the result end the way that it did in your favor? And in your interview, you talked about wasn't pretty, but I got it done. Do you think, had you have not maybe worked on your mental state that much, there could have been a different result?
100%. Yeah, I definitely think, in a way it was nice because I'm down, but it's like I've been in worse situations than this, and it's something that I kind of took into the season. I always set out to, regardless of my accolades or my wins and losses, I just wanted to go out and kind of wrestle my best. I felt like the year before, not that I had regrets that year, but I just felt like I wasn't wrestling like Nino. I felt like I wasn't me out there. It was just a lot of factors that just didn't play into it. And that was part of the reason why I said, no one's going to make me feel like this, because I'm never going to walk off the mat this year and say, that wasn't me out there. So regardless of how I won or lost, I wanted to make sure that, if I lose 8-0 or win 8-0, it's going to be all me. And I think, giving up a takedown was something that, obviously not according to plan, but it's something that wasn't going to deter what I had to do. And my whole goal for that match was to just be me and wrestle 110% whistle to whistle. And I was down, but, I kept it going, stayed the course, and eventually broke through and, was able to win.
So you have now experienced the Parade of Champions twice at the national tournament, but this year as well, you got to, when running out of the tunnel as well, going onto the mat, knowing this is it, I could be undefeated this year, I could be a national champion,
Yeah.
and it happens, and you're running out. What is that experience like for any wrestlers who haven't gotten to experience that, or maybe some that know what that moment's like? Try to put into words that whole evening before that match.
Yeah, the whole evening, I'll be honest, as well as my mental status was, and I was in a really good place, it's almost impossible to not have glimmers of doubt in your head. There'd be times where I'd be sitting on my bed, I'm like, well, worst case scenario, you made the national finals or you're a finalist, or, worst case scenario, well, if you lose, it's okay. But then I would try to snap out of like, like, hey, we're here this far. Why not? What if we did this sort of thing, So I'd be lying if I said there wasn't times where you doubt yourself. And I feel like that I came to terms with something that's normal. I think it's okay to kind of doubt yourself. It kind of makes you feel like you're ready, you're prepared for any scenario sort of thing. But stepping in that tunnel and ready when they're about to call my name out, it almost felt like everything was just worth it. I woke up every day and I worked at something, for 23 years. Every decision I've made at this point has been about this moment. So it kind of felt like, hey, I felt like everything I was doing was finally right. Not that I didn't think I was doing the right stuff before, but it just felt, like I got a confirmation that, hey, you did the right stuff and you finally have put in the work and you're here. And, it really hit me when, it was the last 15 seconds and the clock was right in front of my face where we ended up landing for that last takedown. And I just remember looking up at the clock and it was ticking down. And I kind of said out loud, I don't know, he might have heard me, but I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And I think that's when he said, good job, man. Like he acknowledged that maybe the match was over. So if you'll see the video, I give him a tap on the chest. So that was kind of what that was. So to see that clock tick down, it was just finally, it was like, finally I did this. Every time I woke up, every doubt I had, everything is finally put to rest. And I could finally say I did it. So,
That was so cool. And I think
yeah.
that's crazy actually. 15 seconds left and you're like, this is it. And your opponent, that's the respect that I feel like the sport of wrestling has, where the other guy standing across from you towing that line is like, listen, we've both been training for 20 plus years to get to
Yeah.
this exact moment. And one of us is going to win. One of us is going to lose. So to know
Yeah.
that he had that mutual respect there for you it just speaks a lot to Tanner Sloan's character as well. And who he is
Right.
on the mat. But after that match, I think everyone was so curious to know how Keith Gavin was going to react, because he
Yeah.
isn't very reactionary, but we knew how much that moment meant to him as a coach, but more so because it meant a lot to him seeing you as the athlete be successful. So when you saw how big his smile was and how ready he was to give you a hug,
Yeah.
explain how were you surprised by Keith Gavin's reaction at all?
I honestly a little bit, but not really, because me and Keith are so close that I have seen him like lose his emotion a little bit, whether it's in anger in some matches or in just some happiness. So I knew how big of a moment that was. And I think he knew, he really knew how bad that I wanted this, and he knew how hard I worked to put in this. So I felt like in a way, he really felt that for me, and it was almost hard to not show emotion. So for him to, for us to finally like embrace like that, it just, there was no words needed. It was just kind of an unspoken thing that, hey, we talked about this and we did it. And, more so like I couldn't have did this without you. So I'm just so grateful that he was kind of the first person I got to hug. And yeah, it was funny because my lips were bleeding the whole tournament.
Yeah, we saw lots of blood,
Yeah, lots of blood, and there was a big blood splash on his jacket. So I kind of ruined that jacket for him, but maybe hopefully he can forgive me.
Maybe it's something he'll frame just to have that memory. I'm sure
Yeah.
Carrie wasn't too quick to want to get that stain out for him.
Yeah.
It had a memory
Exactly.
for sure. But you said, Keith, whether out of anger or excitement, you've seen him lose his cool a little bit. I've heard
Yeah.
things about Keith Gavin. When he gets mad, he gets scary. So have you ever had a sort of oh shit moment with Keith Gavin where you're like, this man is a little scary right now?
Yeah, I fortunately I've never had him like, at least that I've seen, never like super angry at me. But I remember there's times when like we'll be in practice and we'll be wrestling, and me and him are in a hard go, and one of the wrestlers or something is supposed to keep time. And so we're wrestling, and the kid like forgets to say time or something. So me and him are going over our hard like 4-minute go or something. And he's like, "You gotta keep the time." Like he freaks out because he's like in that adrenaline rush. He's wrestling, and he kind of lets it loose a little bit. And when he does that, the kid's like, "Oh my gosh!" So everyone kind of stops in the room, like looks over at him, and like, "Oh my gosh, we better be on our best behavior." Keith's pissed. So Yeah.
Note to self, if you're keeping time in the pit wrestling room, keep the time. Don't forget. That's the
Please,
most important
please
job.
pay attention. Please. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
after you got to hug your coaches and sort of celebrate and feel that moment by yourself, your family was right there to meet you on the mat. I have to ask because I have watched a lot of pit wrestling matches in person this year. I went to the ACC tournament. Your dad has never sat for one of your matches, like ever sat. And I got scared at home because I said, oh my gosh, is Mr. Bonaccorsi going to sit mat side or is he going to go stand somewhere? Because he never has. Did your dad, was he nervous about doing that? Because I'm surprised he didn't stand, knowing I feel like it's almost like a superstition at this point when you're on the mat.
Oh, I was shocked because so they gave us a packet that morning talking about like, hey, they give it to all the finalists and said, if your parents want to sit mat side, like here's the paper, you have to text this, here's the bands. And I grabbed it. I'm like, yeah, these people, this is kind of a waste because I know these people aren't sitting there, because every match, like you said, my dad goes here, brother's here, mom, like they just scatter. It's just a whole nerve thing. So I told him, I'm like, yeah, so here's this thing if you want to do it. My mom's like, okay. And then my brother was like, yeah, we want to. My dad's like, I don't know, bud. We're gonna see. I'm like, I bet you guys won't do it. And so I found out. So obviously they sat there, but I found out after the fact that my dad was still hesitant. He's like, I might sit up here. My brother's like, dude, when's the next time you're gonna sit mat side of your finals or your like son's wrestling?
Exactly.
And he just was like, that's true. So they kind of went down. So he's probably on top of the nerves for the match. He probably just felt like he wanted to jump out of that chair and run somewhere. But it was. I'm glad they did that because it was really cool having them there, and they were so close. It was great.
Yeah, that was definitely one thing during your match to calm my nerves. I was looking behind you to watch your dad the whole time. And I was telling my family, I was like, just watch Mr. Bonaccorsi. I'm just wondering if he's going to stand up and start walking somewhere and pacing because he's never done this.
Never. Yeah.
I was so curious. No, I love it. But so I was reading, I think Intermat, they must have had something with matches going on or fans were able to react to things. Nino, there are comments after your match that are hilarious to read.
Really?
Like talking about this kid is just blue collar Pittsburgh through and through, like talking about all these Pittsburgh comments. But one that stood out to me was with a name like Bonaccorsi, I bet his mom makes a mean pasta sauce.
Oh,
Tell us about Mama Bonaccorsi's pasta because we know she's cooking it up on the weekends for you.
It's unmatched. I think she hides some secrets from me. She shared a secret ingredient not too long ago, but it's really it's hard to put into words. It's like it's so homey, but it's so good. And I honestly have considered like marketing it and like I'm like, Mom, make big batches of sauce and like we'll sell it in like little glass jars. Like I swear people would buy it. It's so great. And she's actually been someone that she's been so great this year. Like you said, she's such a good cook that for my meals during the week and everything, she would meal prep me and bring me down food and always be cooking for me the whole year. And so she's someone that can't go without, a thank you. She put a lot of work in and a lot of extra cooking time for me. And it was great because it wasn't like I was eating. I'm like, this is okay. It was always like a great meal. So she really kind of helped me out in that aspect. And she's great.
So her Italian sauce, is it like a sweet sauce? Is it more of that like tomato rich sauce? Like tell us the taste of Mama Bonaccorsi's sauce.
It's a sweet sauce. It's more of a sweet sauce. She adds brown sugar to it. That's one of the secret ingredients. I don't know if that kind of makes someone feel a certain way, but that's kind of like the flavor she goes. Like it's more of like a sweet sauce. So it's very good.
I'm all about a sweet sauce. All right, Mama Bonaccorsi, I'll have to text her. She's my girl. I'll have to say I need some dinner prepped over here for me. But something I respect a lot about your parents is the fact that I see a lot of youth wrestling happen, right? And a lot of the parents are a bit nuts sometimes, and rightfully so. You want the best for your kid. But so many parents get really tied up in their kid being a state champion and that being the only way that it defines them. And they won't go to college unless you see so many guys that have, like yourself, never won a state title. Now we're a national champion, never even made it to the state tournament, really. Anthony Cassar is one of those guys that come to mind where until his senior year, he didn't even really see the success in somewhat of wrestling. So tell me, when you look back at all the stats that you have as a wrestler, why some of that really just doesn't matter as much to all the parents out there who want their kid to be like Nino Bonaccorsi, what matters more to you as an athlete, the advice you'd be giving to young athletes and their parents?
Yeah, I'm just glad I could be kind of an example of, your story's kind of not unwritten. It's not finished yet. I feel like a lot of people chalk up to their career and their story to kind of how they did. And like you said, if I have to win a state title to do this, or if you don't win a state title, then there's no way you can All American or let alone be a national champion. So I just think the advice is, don't don't fret on like the stuff you've already accomplished or have yet to accomplish, because your story's still being written. You can improve so much in college, and you stay consistent. And I think honestly, vice versa is, just because you maybe do have success in high school, or you are a on phenom 4-time state champion, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have success in that aspect. And I feel like you see that guys come out of high school haven't never lost, and they kind of, I don't want to say stop working hard, but maybe they just have high expectations that they're already so good. How much better could they get? And then you kind of see them fizzle out. So I just think it kind of works both ways, that, just because of what you've done up to this point, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is just kind of staying consistent and being better every day. And that's really something that I did. And I can kind of look back and be proud of that. Every day I had a goal of just getting 1% better every day. And I think that really improved my wrestling and my maturity and my personal growth. So I just think that's kind of something that you could look at both sides, and just really just kind of use me as a prime example. I don't think many people expected that, but uh here I am. So
No, it's a great example, and it's important, especially here in Western Pennsylvania. Things get a little heated at the youth level, so
Mhm.
it's important
Oh
to know
yeah,
that that's not everything. You can still
not
have
everything.
success. But something
Hmm.
that also has gotten 1% better this year, in my opinion, is the environment of pit wrestling matches. I had so much fun sitting
Hmm.
inside of the field house, and especially that Iowa State match was nuts to be a part of. It was, oh,
Crazy.
it was incredible. And Jersey Jerry came to a match this year, one of the Barstool
Yeah.
personalities that's now pushing wrestling. So then we're gonna have Victory Heights. So how have you as an athlete seen the fan base grow, and where would you like to see it go with the addition of Victory Heights as well for pit wrestling?
Yeah, I just think we have the best fans in the world, and I think it only gets better as we have the success we've been having. I've seen a real change in when I first got the pit. Not that we didn't have our hardcore fans or anything, but just having the success, and with all the new Victory Heights, like you said, just all the new logos and new gear. I just think we're really uh, committing to being like, this powerhouse team, with all this nice stuff. And I think recruits see that, fans see that, and you kind of can't help but just cheer for Pitt. We're the Pittsburgh school, we're the Pittsburgh wrestling school, and you just can't help but feel like, I don't know, part of the team. And I think it's guys like Jerry and these Barstool and a lot of these media presence who see that from our fans, and how we wrestle. It only grows our sport, but it grows Pitt wrestling, and I think that's just great for our culture. And I think the upward trend we've been having is only going to keep going. And I just look forward to all the new buildings we get, and just I hope I can be a part of it and just kind of see how that all progresses, and hopefully get some more national champs and everything. So it's just so cool.
It's going to be exciting for sure. Hopefully, you are a part of more. Have you thought about what your next step is at all? I mean, I know you're still, relishing the fact that you're the national champion here, but
Yeah.
have you thought about what's next?
Yeah, well, regardless of what I do next, it has to be involved in wrestling. I mean, it's just something that it's my life and it's me. I can't really imagine myself doing anything other than kind of giving back to, whether that's the youth, the high school, or the college level. It's just, I bleed wrestling. So any capacity where I could help out and coach, and obviously being around Pitt would be great to stay local and watch these guys and watch my team develop. So that'd be great. And yeah, so I just, any form of wrestling I could stay involved in is something that I'd love to do.
All forms of wrestling. We love it. I bleed wrestling. That's a great quote there, Nino. I'm like,
Yeah.
your mouth was bleeding
My
wrestling as
mouth.
the national
Yeah.
champion. Yeah. That
Yeah.
was pretty insane. But for those
Yeah.
people out there, like I said, I have a ton of people that consume this who aren't always into the wrestling world and what it means. So if you had to give an elevator pitch to somebody as to why they should jump on board with the sport of wrestling, how would you convince somebody to start becoming a wrestling fan?
Yeah, well, I would start with just saying the fact that it's an individual sport. I think what you'll see on the mat is just two guys who are giving their heart, blood, and soul into this, and it's two guys who are just willing to, neither guy wants to lose, nor does any team want to lose. But I think just the aspect of it's just kind of yourself out there. I think that just makes this sport so cool. Regardless of whether you're on or off. I think sometimes in a team sport you can get away with, if you don't play that good and your team won, you're like, well, that was good. But in wrestling, if you're off, then that's it. You lose. So just the ability to watch two warriors, someone who gave their all to the sport, battle it out for 7 minutes is it's just basically a street fight with rules. And you'll see some bloody lips and some all that. So yeah, if you want to kind of see some great scrapping and some hard work, where to tune in.
It's a street fight with rules. That's exactly what it feels like. Even at
Yeah.
and seeing the growth of female wrestling has been awesome too. I mean, the Olympians out there like Tamira Mensah-Stock, Sarah Hildebrandt. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So when you're watching the female wrestlers compete at the Olympic level as well, like a girl like Tamira Mensah-Stock, let's say you stepped on the mat with her, do you think she could get you every once in a while?
I definitely wouldn't want to go and parterre and get laced. That's for dang sure. I think she got a powerful lace. And yeah, I mean, the growth that you've seen in this women's wrestling is just it's so great. And I feel like I've really been seeing it in our Whitfield era, all these high school teams and, all these numbers that are coming out. Like just the other day, they had the girls Whitfield wrestling and they had states. So it's just great to see. And, these girls are dang tough, man. I wouldn't mess with any of them. That's for sure.
Especially if they're coming out of the Whippeal, right? They're going up
Yeah, right.
against some bruisers. So they know how to throw down with that street fight. Nino,
Yep.
I have to know, we talked a lot about wrestling and who you identify with on the mat. Who are you off the mat? Are you a beer guy here on Beers with Beers?
I actually am not. I'll be honest. I was something that I never got into. I've never drank in my life. I've never really done anything.
Never even tried
Never,
anything.
ever. Never. The only thing I ever drank was I had wine in my confirmation at church. So something you have to drink to kind of get confirmation, but never drank. It's just something that, just nothing against it. It's just something I just never did. Yeah.
Were you a fan of the church wine?
It was honestly a little sour. I
Yeah.
don't know. It was okay. Maybe in the future. I'm Italian, so I should like wine, but I don't know. I guess when I was like 12, it wasn't hitting. So.
Yeah, it wasn't at the age
Yeah.
Also, did you ever think, I grew up Catholic too, I had to get confirmed, and I used to think it'd be so cool to drink the wine in church just because I was like 12 and I just thought,
For sure.
being bad in church.
Yeah.
But I'm allowed to. God told me to. So
Yeah.
did you ever think about how gross it is when you see the chalice and like after COVID, you're like, do you know how many people, like what if people are backwashing?
I used to think, literally as you said that, I was like, I actually remember it being like, I going up and I'm like, that's kind of gross. Like everyone's like backwashing it and spitting it. And then they try to like wipe it, but it's like, they're not wiping anything. If anything, they're just moving all the germs around. So yeah, never messed with that.
Yeah, as a Catholic, that was interesting. My favorite part about church growing up, it was great. It was a family environment. We had I went to a mountain church, and so on Sundays, people were wearing Steeler jerseys into church, jeans. It just came from bringing in the hogs, like feeding the cows, everything like that. It was a good old mountain church experience. So that was always really fun. But all right, you don't drink, but if you're having fun with friends, let's say we have a playlist here on Beers with Mears. It's our Beers with Mears guest playlist, and I'm accumulating songs from guests that they would be drinking to or having fun to with friends. What are 3 songs that you think you would add to that playlist?
Okay, so I'm recently a new country lover.
Love this side of you.
I've been getting into it. So this is so cliche and everyone's gonna be like, that's so mainstream, but I like Wagon Wheel.
Yes, Darius Rucker, put it on there.
Love that song. Let me see. I'm gonna do I think honestly, this is an old one, but I like the song Shake It Off by Taylor Swift.
Great, you're a Swiftie.
I'm a Swiftie, yeah. And then I'd have to go another Shake song. It's Shake It by Metro Station.
Yes, look at you with all these throwbacks. Of course I know that one.
So yeah, I'd have to go those 3 for sure. I had to throw a country one in there because I'm starting to turn. I was starting to turn.
I like this side of you. That's making me appreciate you more. You're a Swiftie though. I wouldn't have guessed that, Nino.
I wouldn't even say, honestly, I'm more of like a believer than a Swiftie, I'd say. I like Justin Bieber. I got asked yesterday, they're like, if you'd have someone play at your wedding, who would it be? I'm like, I like Justin Bieber. I
Yeah.
think he's freaking awesome. So yeah.
So you're a big Justin Bieber guy. What is like the first song you would play if you picked up your phone right now, went Justin Bieber? What song are you putting on? Old Justin Bieber, new Justin Bieber, what song?
Yeah, probably new Justin Bieber. I like that song, like Where Are You Now? Or I forget. He's like, Where Are You Now? Yeah, that one. Yeah. Or Baby. That was a classic. I remember when that first came out, I was like, this dude, he got something.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so I like Bieber, and I just
So if people see you walking around campus with headphones on, it can be confirmed that you might be listening to Justin Bieber.
99% it's Bieber or Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't you make that your run out song?
I know. I was when they asked me for the finals, I was like, I don't know. I just felt like it was more of a tradition, like just sicko mode. But I was gonna change it, but I'm like, we got this far. We might as well just kind of stick to the sicko mode theme. But I know I kind of wanted to. I almost did the Johnny Cash song. It was like either sicko mode or the what's it called? It's like Johnny Cash one's like God's Gonna Cut You Down. That one.
Yeah.
I was really gonna do that. I was like really close to doing that one too, but I just stuck with the sicko mode.
Sicko mode works. Wow. I think a lot of people here that are tuning in are gonna be fans of wrestling now, just because some of our wrestlers like Swift, they like Bieber. We're a big fan of it. So I appreciate you, Nino, for taking time out of your busy celebrity schedule this week. Being a hometown hero, coming on Beers with Mears. I really appreciate it. So thank you. Congratulations on all of your success, and have fun being the hometown celebrity and enjoying your sandwiches and ice cream.
Let's go, Mears, drinking beer.